welcome back to Rise and Shine. Well, as we promised you, we do have two special guests in the studio today. Science of today is the technology of tomorrow. And when we speak of technological advancements, there's something very important that we intend to speak on today, which is how Sri Lanka can use 3D printing technologies to get the benefits of the fourth industrial revolution. And we do have Mr. Chaminda Hettiarachchi, who is the co-founder and the director at FabLanka Foundation, a social enterprise based in Colombo, and he is also the CEO and the managing director at Dil Consultancy, a research management consultancy company in Sri Lanka. And also we have Mr. Priyantha Palapathwala, who is the co-founder and director of FabLanka Foundation in Colombo, and he's also the director and CEO of MEASA Consulting Limited of Sri Lanka. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Well, speaking of the fourth industrial revolution, Mr. Chaminda would like to ask you, what is the fourth industrial revolution? We've been coming over the past centuries with different industrial revolutions, but what's this fourth industrial revolution?
Thank you. Good morning again, and it's really a pleasure to be in your flagship program, Rise and Shine. So let me very briefly explain what is the fourth industrial revolution. In fact, it's a digital revolution, diffusion of biological, physical and digital worlds or spheres, combination of them and diffusion of them. Now we have been seeing digital revolution, third industrial revolution we call it, from 1970s, where we had internet, rise of computer science and information technology. But now we are talking about something very different. It's more integrated, more transformational. So that is fourth industrial revolution. But I'm sure, just to recall, first industrial revolution, which happened in the late 18th century, based in England, where mainly the drive was coal and steam power. So for example, in cotton industries, this industry became mechanized. So as a result of that, then we had second industrial revolution, which happened in at the beginning of 20th century and end of 19th century, which is actually still running. The world is running with such development. So for example, automobile industry, production processes as in large scale, those things are the results. Now we had a lot of developments, and you already mentioned about energy and about requirement for sustainable development, but now these are also the problems faced due to second industrial revolution. So as a result of fourth industrial revolution, which is currently happening, we are also looking at solution to issues like water, energy and environment.
Yes, and also that's very interesting, and we want to keep our viewers reminded that we're going to speak about 3D printing technology, and we do have a 3D printer right here in the studios, and we would be showing live today as to how this 3D printer is going to function as well. And moving on, yes, Varna.
Yeah, moving on to another question. Now, something that I want to grow on the content you shared with us is that now the fourth industrial revolution is happening around the world. As a country, why do you think we should pay, as Sri Lanka, we should pay attention to this revolution?
Yeah, very good question, because now what we have seen in Sri Lanka, mainly we normally, when during last industrial revolution, we have been just observers, or we wondered what happened. Now I think we have an opportunity for the next industrial revolution, because Sri Lanka is very different now than maybe 50 years or even 100 years. So we have basic skills, we have basic resources, and also even attitude. Now the government is, for example, talking about knowledge hub, talking about logistics hub. So therefore it is compatible with the government policies and vision for the country. Now that's one positive side. Now also, now we have to understand that any industrial revolution is inevitable. So it's challenging us how we are doing things, even the way we look at ourselves and the society, and how we interact with the world. So those things will be challenged by the new way of doing business, new way of countries working each other, and also new way we look at energy problem, water problem and environmental problem. So then as a result of that, not only governments, people, companies and individuals have to rethink about the way we are looking at. So one negative problem or negative aspect of industrial revolution will be it will challenge our skills, our readiness of how we are looking at jobs, how we are looking at the our future careers. So we have to relearn a lot of things by unlearning what we have already learned. So therefore, it is something inevitable, and also if you prepare properly and if you develop our skill as preemptive way, or for example without being late, so we will get the benefit. Otherwise we will be again losers, like what we did maybe 100 years ago.
So preparation is actually quite useful when it comes to preparing for anything, as you mentioned. So that's about the fourth industrial revolution and how we can get ready for that.
Well, that is very important. And also adding to what you said, Mr. Chaminda, would like to ask you now, as you mentioned, this is very important for Sri Lanka because we are going at a development stage when it comes to the IT literacy rate and also the developments in technology and the ICT sector in the country. So what do you think is digital manufacturing? And when we speak of Sri Lanka, where do we stand and how can we really get there to digital manufacturing?
Okay, so now in fourth industrial revolution we are talking about integrated digital, physical and biological transformations or revolutions. Now one important aspect will be how manufacturing affected. So now we know Sri Lanka is not really in manufacturing country. I think at the moment we have less than 30% in our GDP, but we have an inheritance of manufacturing. Now if you look at current way of manufacturing, it has been still structured on second industrial revolution. So we need to have big factories, produce large scale production volumes, and have high capital intensive factories and plants. But now because of the availability of technologies like artificial intelligence, data analytics, robotic technology and Internet of Things, those are the fourth industrial revolutions different frontiers, and of course 3D printing. Now we are in a position to produce small scale with high accuracy and high specialized product with high innovation. So in the next industrial revolution, the rule will be not how capital rich you are, but how innovative you are. So now the concepts like flexible manufacturing or smart manufacturing will focus on energy efficient, low water intensive industries and factories. So as a result of that, we will be able to save our planet, reduce the use of water and energy. So therefore, now this smart manufacturing will give a competitive advantage with countries like Sri Lanka, small countries where we don't have bigger markets. So we will be able to compete with countries like India or China in digital manufacturing.
Well, that's pretty interesting. And moving on to Mr. Priyantha, would like to ask you, let's talk a little bit about 3D printing itself. What is 3D printing and how can we bring this about in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, if you just basically look at define what 3D printing is, 3D printing basically is, a digital file, just directing a machine of this nature, and by laying down successive layers of a material, it is done by layer until the complete object is formed. And that is basically the very basic principle of digital manufacturing. 3D printing, and it's kind of a subset of the whole big concept of digital manufacturing. And we also call it sometimes additive manufacturing because it lay down successive layers, and it's an additive process as opposed to most of conventional manufacturing is a subtractive process where you by removing material you form an object. But here it's an additive process, and therefore as you mentioned, and it's a very good way, and it's a green technology because there's no waste. Because it's an additive process, whole of raw material is used to produce the item.
I think that's the best thing about this technology, I believe, when it comes to no waste means, and if you're going to go green and support that aspect of it, I think it's something which is very useful not only here in Sri Lanka but for the people across the globe.
Indeed, because that is what we see there. And it has many benefits, like as my colleague mentioned here. One very important thing I want to mention, expanding on what Charmin just mentioned, because now this will sort of outdate the concept of economies of scale, and just bring in or enhance the concept of economies of scope, because which means you can minimize the cost of production of a unit by varying the number of products produced, and by making them in small batches. So that's a very good way of very good approach for a small country like Sri Lanka. So that's very important, and so that is one of the very important aspects of this technology. And if you want me to talk of similar benefits, like how it contributes towards green manufacturing, is one is of course this waste. There's no waste, of course, I mean minimum waste. And there's this concept of B2F used in industry, especially in the aero industry, but it could be applied to any industry. I mean buy to fly ratio, whatever you buy and how much of that will fly in on the aircraft, in fact. So when you use 3D printed items, it's more or less what you buy and what you fly are the same. So it could be applied for any industry. And most importantly, you were talking about energy saving, and this is a technology that uses minimum energy comparatively, right? Usage of energy is minimized here because, for example, one is there's no energy is required in removing the waste, so that itself is a saving of energy. And also, if you look at conventional manufacturing, like very high heated, high temperature hearts are not necessary.
Right.
And there are lots of benefits of that nature. And there are a lot of knock-on effects, like when you say there's no waste, that means you don't have to have a lot of stock, you don't have to buy a lot of stock, you don't have to transport a lot of stock.
That's right.
Right, so there are lots of advantages from a green technology perspective.
Okay, right. So Mr. Chaminda is trying to get this machine to work and print something for you. So you already saw some modules that were printed previously on the screen. So Mr. Chaminda, could you explain the process of printing, and if you can print something, that will be great.
Okay, I'll try my best. It's a very sensitive machine. So let me quickly explain the components and how it works. Now, there are 3 motors. So that means it's a 3-dimensional movement. So this is called bed, but in the below it's a bed, and there's some kind of tool you can see here. It's extruder. So that is where the printing happens. Now,
is it printed now?
It's preparing. Now I have heated this extruder to 210 degrees, and bed will be heated to 50 degrees. Now here you don't see from the back side, there's a wheel which feed our material. That is our material, which is plastic. But there are printers of different material. Can be concrete, can be bioprinting, can be other metals. So we have simple demonstrated kind of small printer. So now you can see the printer is moving, the extruder is moving on the bed. So I'm trying to print a dog tag, which will take about 30 minutes. But just wanted to show you how it works.
Yeah, I can see some.
Maybe already printed one.
One of these?
This is a dog tag, which will take about 25 minutes to print. We are trying to print it here now. Based on the complexity or the size of the product, it will take time. But as I already mentioned, there are companies who are printing houses with concrete and other components.
Printing houses?
Exactly, livable houses. There are some companies, and there are places or the companies who are printing bridges, for example.
Really? Wow.
So it's now, even though this is small in size, because this for us is mainly for educational purposes, but there are high-end printers which are more precious, more specialized, and also even expensive.
Okay, so while Mr. Chaminda is in the process of printing this whatever he's printing, and we're going to take a look at Mr. Priyantha and ask him about the FabLab. Could you explain what this FabLab means, the term?
Yeah, it's basically an abbreviation for fabrication laboratory. This is a concept, started somewhere in 2001 in MIT in USA at this Center for Bits and Atoms as an educational outreach unit. How to promote this 3D printing concept among public. So FabLab basically is a place, a location where you have access to digital fabrication equipment, machinery, but there are certain conditions that need to be satisfied when you say it's a FabLab. For example, the most important thing is that it needs to have access to the public, and part of the time has to be for free or for some service sort of thing. And also you need to contribute and subscribe to the FabLab charter. And also now these FabLabs all over the world are the same. They need to use the same processors, same tools. So you don't see a difference when you go to a FabLab in USA, in Germany or any other place. It looks the same. It shares the same equipment. And also you cannot isolate yourself. And when you are in a FabLab, it's a network. It's a global network. So you get, connected. You learn together. You share information. So it's a place like that is a FabLab. I mean, that's what we call a FabLab.
Well, actually, Priyantha, adding to what you said, want to ask you now, how do you think that Sri Lanka should use FabLab in promoting the 3D printing in the country? Because with the challenges that we are facing with regards to the developments of the IT sector, and like was mentioned rightly by Chaminda, moving on to a completely different setup is not something easy as well from the position that we are in. So how do you think that we can really move on to this level in the country and we can make use of these technologies to go to a greener step?
Yeah. So actually now if you look at the FabLab, you can even see the efforts to promote this as an alternative model of ICT for development. And we could also look at it as an initiative to transform Sri Lanka into a manufacturing-based economy. Because now, why we couldn't make use of the previous industrial revolutions? One is because of the high capital investment needed, and also the knowledge gap we had. But now we don't see them because this is relatively less capital intensive. And also as far as knowledge gap is concerned, we are very good now because the basic is information technology, and we have very talented youth who have the necessary knowledge. So it's just a matter of stepping up their knowledge with this concept of what is necessary for this technology. And we have taken initiative. We have just set up our pilot FabLab in the Kurunegala district in Mahanduru. And we call it as a National Innovation Center. And our idea is to expand this and set up these NICs right across in the island, so that we can reach out to people and get them to learn it. I mean, we of course started a long time back, 3 years ago, and we of course, Chaminda, myself, and also a friend who is working overseas in the US in this particular industry, and we are engineers by background. And then we thought we will first learn this technology, and as an alternative model of ICT for development, let's promote this in Sri Lanka. So what we did was we first learned the technology, because we ourselves knew only conventional manufacturing. So we learned this technology and we just expanded our team. And because it's not only engineers, it's not a technology for engineers alone. So we got accountants, the lawyers, psychologists, a lot of people involved, because all their contributions are very important. We have to think of legal aspects, because there's no law for this, and we need to think of how to reach out to different people, because it's a social enterprise, reaching out for people. So how to, there shouldn't be any discrimination. No, these are all things that need to be satisfied when you're setting up a FabLab. These are, the conditions. Right, so we just expanded our team, and we wanted to get involved, different stakeholders like the government, non-governmental organizations, the private sector. So we were doing a lot of work to, get them engaged in our effort. So we have been working, and we just promoted this concept. We went and did a lot of lectures in universities. We went to rural schools and taught students, and we demonstrated by taking small machines like this, how things could be produced using this technology. We of course went to places like Prime Minister's task force for promoting ICT. We went for and demonstrated. So we are just doing quite a lot of work in this area.
And also, Priyantha, adding to what you said in terms of creating awareness, I believe if this type of technology, if we can incorporate in the university students' modules as well, I think that would be very good, because students will think beyond the position where they are currently in terms of research, and they can also get into this type of developments when they come out of university after they graduate.
Definitely, Buddhimana. This is already happening in different scales, and now a lot of universities like University of Peradenium or TUA, Colombo, they're all, introducing this concept in their curriculum and all that. But the important thing, the way we look at it is, not for it to be, isolated or select as, university or something. We want to, spread it across the island. We want to make sure, especially, the people who don't have opportunity to go into universities. There's a lot of students, well qualified students, well knowledgeable students and youth. So we want to reach out to them and give public access. And so it's a kind of a social. We just don't want to, limit it to the universities, but of course it's happening there. So we want to, if you can
add something on that now. Actually, we believe that this should be happening at the school level.
Yes.
So we want to this be, for example, even O-level curriculum, where because this is not only technology; it is about trying your design skill, trying your modeling skill. So we want this to be introduced at early stage, maybe even O-level.
That's very interesting. And
Yeah, exactly. So, well, this printing process is actually going to take another 30 minutes or so. So we won't be able to show you exactly what is going to be printed, but we can show a sample of what is to be printed. Is this? It's actually a dog bow, and if you can take a close-up of that, this is actually what is happening. And yeah, this is about what's going to be printed. So anyway, this is being printed just by this printer right away. And well, that concludes today's discussion about fourth industrial revolution and also 3D printing in Sri Lanka.
well, yes, indeed, and thank you very much, Mr. Chaminda Hettiarachchi and Mr. Priyantha Palapathwala for being with us. It was indeed a great privilege to have you in Rise and Shine, and we wish you all the very best. And we hope that this technology can be very sooner used in Sri Lanka, and especially for the development of the ICT industry in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much.
And with that, it's time to wind up our program on Rise and Shine today. We hope to see you same time, same place tomorrow as well. Till then, bye-bye from us and have yourself a wonderful day.
Yes, have a good day.
Love never felt so